Football Friday brought to you by Elite Lawns. No mud, no mowing, no mess.
Hi and welcome to Football Friday here at Bay TV. Regular viewers will realise that I've been away for a few weeks. I've been gave myself over to the scalpel wizards at Broad Green Hospital who've been rearranging my internal organs. So I'd like to thank Jennifer Jewell who sat in for me while I was away. I came back, nothing's changed. We've got the same studio pundits that we had when I left. David Fairclough from Liverpool and Graeme Sharp representing the blue corner, Everton. Gentlemen, let's start with Raheem Sterling, because all I've read in any newspaper this week has been Raheem Sterling, pounds, shillings and pence, and does he want to stay or does he want to go? David, you're for your Liverpool, you could start.
Well, it's a disappointing thing to see Liverpool dominating the back pages in such a way. Obviously, there doesn't seem to be any real hurry for Raheem Sterling or need to sign a new contract, as he's got 2 years left. Club clearly want to try and secure him for a little bit longer, and maybe that's their motive. But now the club and the player, the agents have all got themselves in an untidy mess, which is reflecting really badly on Raheem Sterling. And I think some of the things that have been coming out, I think, are going to heap a little bit of pressure on a young guy like him who basically, needs to be concentrating on football. It's an important stage of the season. One or two of his performances in recent weeks have been a little bit maybe lower than perhaps he's been performing at in the past. So clearly, I think it's having a little bit of a detrimental effect. And as I say, one or two of the issues he's had to sort of discuss, perhaps now are reflecting badly on him.
I mean, before we discuss the rights and wrongs of what might have happened this week, is he as good as people say? Because bizarrely, from my point of view, he's been almost bracketed with Ronaldo and Bale, etc. this week. And Messi, and I don't get this at all. I don't see it. I know he's a very good player with a lot of potential, but at the moment, surely it is just potential.
I would agree. I think it's an awful lot of potential. I mean, he's being put in a bracket, perhaps, in terms of salary-wise, as some of the biggest players in Europe, and he's achieved very little, in truth. I mean, he hasn't played in a semi-final of a major competition. He hasn't got a medal of any type, Okay, he's got some England international caps and played in a World Cup, but he didn't make a really great impact in the World Cup. In truth, there's an awful lot of progression still to come from Raheem Sterling, and he is very much a player with massive potential, and he's played a key part. But to put him at the status that he's at, I think somebody's jumping the gun a bit.
I mean, have we now reached the stage in English football where we're willing to pay £100,000 a week for potential?
I know it's ridiculous.
It's
to be honest
crazy.
With you, it is absolutely balmy. For actually, somebody I say who hasn't really achieved a great deal yet. He played a big part in Liverpool's really, great end to last season, and became, a key player in that system because he worked really, really well with Suarez and Sturridge. But to put the onus on him now, I mean, if you're putting a player on at that type of level, I mean, over £5 million a year, I think you're expecting great things, and whether that's fair on him actually is debatable as well. So actually, who is sort of whether somebody's asking for that amount or Liverpool are offering that amount, somewhere along the line, someone's got the figures wrong, I think.
I mean, Graeme, he's had a rough ride this week with the media. And quite clearly, I mean, I don't know what's going on, but I understand how the system works. Clearly, he's gone against club instructions by doing a TV interview without permission, without telling what he was going to do. On the other hand, in my view, the club are out of order because somebody's leaked the fact that he's been offered £100,000 a week.
Definitely, and I just think everything at the moment is against Raheem Sterling. As David said, I think his performances have suffered over the last few weeks. Is it because of the speculation and all the hype that's in the papers, or is it because he's been asked to do a different job? For me, Raheem Sterling is a player who likes to pick the ball up and run at people. He's not a great finisher at this moment in time, but he scores some goals. But at the moment he's been asked to play like wide right as a wing back, left as a wing back, being shoved around. So he's maybe looking at that and thinking, this is not really what I want to do. I want to be picked at a certain position. Don't get me wrong, he's young and he's still got loads to learn, but I just think that he's come out of this badly, and I don't think it's all his fault, to be perfectly honest. He said that he's got 2.5 years to go, David, in his contract. Why do you have to discuss it now? There's people at Liverpool on 6 months to go their contract, a year left in their contract. I think John Henderson, Skittle, Johnson come into that equation. So why is it all about Raheem Sterling? What, for me, reading into what Raheem Sterling has said, listen, I've got 2.5 years left in my contract. I want this season to finish, and if we have to discuss things, let's discuss them in the summer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yes, people will say he's wrong, he should sign for Liverpool, he owes Liverpool this. Hold on a minute, things have changed now. And players have got a lot of power, so they can dictate when they want to sit down and talk, and his agent is probably saying that to him as well. But at the moment, I think he's getting a hard time over it, the boy, and I just think somewhere along the line, I don't know if Liverpool have played this correctly as well. As you said about maybe leaking salaries, whatever, we don't know. But at the moment, I think he's getting hammered by the supporters, calling them greedy and everything else. I don't think it's about greed, because if it was about greed, he would have signed the contract that was offered to him, which is double, treble what he's getting at the moment, we're led to believe. So I think the boy's getting a hard time.
I think that's a good point about the move and the position and stuff, because I think it can affect you later on in your career, how you're seen as a player. You can be too versatile. I know that personally. There's been talk in recent weeks about Welbeck. It doesn't do you any good if you can't play right, left, centre, and all that. You shift it around a little bit, and he does probably. Now that it's a valid argument for him to say that I want to be played in my strongest position, or whatever, but certainly have some identity. And at the moment, who really knows what type of player Raheem Sterling is, and where you're going to get the best from him?
The other thing that which people tend to forget is that he's not from this part of the world. He's from London, isn't he? Liverpool going from QPR when he was 15. And reading between the lines, which I tend to do a lot as a journalist, it's interesting that Sterling was talking about Arsenal in such glowing terms, and you just wonder whether instinctively he sees himself playing for a London football club.
No,
again.
I don't think so. I think what he's come out and this week and saying that is grown up as a boy. He can see himself abroad, playing abroad. That's where he wants to try and achieve and emulate the people that's moved abroad and done very, very well. But I don't think it's necessarily. I think he said he was flattered by Arsenal's interest. I think too much can be read into that. I don't necessarily think he wants to move back to London. Although I think that if it did come about, I think Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, all the top clubs would be interested. That shows you the boy has got potential, and people would be willing to not take a chance on him, but realise that he is a very, very good player. So I don't think it's a London thing.
No, well, I think the fact that he actually answered the question the way he didn't, that's a lack of experience, really. He's been thrown into a situation, and he's tried to be honest enough, but probably it's come out all wrong. And again, it's thrown a bad message out to Liverpool fans, unfortunately. They've picked up on that. It was unfair that he should have been thrown into that sort of situation. He was caught with his guard down, really.
The other thing it does is it also unsettles the club, because they now know what he's been offered. The other players, he's been offered 100 grand a week, but he wants 180, and they'll be assuming if he does sign that he's got what he demanded, and then you get the proverbial queue of players at the manager's door.
Again, we're talking about he's demanded 180. We don't know that. We don't know. We're speculating in the newspapers and everything, and that's a dangerous thing, because fans read the papers and think, oh, this is what it's all about, and he's asking for this, he's greedy, who does he think he is? And I don't think that. I think the only people that know what he's been offered, or should know, are the manager at Liverpool Football Club and Raheem Sterling, possibly his agent, and that's up to them to discuss. But I think, as David says, he went out in front of the TV cameras just to try and quell things a little bit, because it was getting ridiculous.
But didn't tell the manager he was going to do that.
No, but again, Ian, we know, and we all worked in football clubs as well, and you said, right, okay, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. He's a human being, and if he wants to put his saying out, he can't just be led all the time by what Liverpool want him to say or whatever. Sometimes he's got to go and do that. You can't stop him from doing that.
The only ominous thing, I think, from Liverpool's supporters' perspective is that the speech that Brendan Rodgers gave saying he's going nowhere was the same speech he gave about Luis Suarez. You just substitute the words Luis Suarez for Raheem Sterling. And I know he has to come out and say that, but quite how much water that holds, I don't know. I mean, do you think he'll still be there next season, or the?
I really don't know. In all honesty, I think money talks. I think when Liverpool had that ridiculous bid for Fernando Torres at the time, he went. It all came off, and who's to say? Everybody has their price, and if you get an eye-watering figure, then perhaps Liverpool then turn around and say there is no loyalty on either side. Nobody owes anything to each other. It's a professional business, and one thing or another. So to come out and say that statement is, I don't know. It's a little bit. I think everyone's puffing the chest out a little bit and sort of trying to make their ground. And at the moment, one or two silly things are sort of maybe hitting the headlines.
David's right there, and spot on. No loyalty on both sides. So it's not just the player as well; it's the club as well. We can go down this road again. We've touched on it. Steven Gerrard, what a fantastic servant. He's been to Liverpool, but then when the time comes, no sentiment, no out the door.
Having worked at Everton for so long, I know that from the club's perspective, if he's going to leave, what they need him to say publicly is, I want to leave. And they're then in the clear. We don't want a player who doesn't want to play for our football club. We'll get the best deal possible. It's best for both sides. Suarez being the classic example.
Yeah, but we know, Ian, as well, players have got so much power now. So much power. It's not. In our day, it used to be the club that had the power. Now it's the players.
Well, I think the fact that Liverpool are panicking and he's got 2.5 years left on his contract. I mean, what's the point in having a 5-year contract when you've got 2.5 years left to run and everybody goes into a tailspin when you get to that mark? It's ridiculous. It used to be, didn't it, the final 6 months, 9 months?
Yeah.
Oh, what are we going to do? We better sign him up or sell him.
Definitely.
Now it's 2.5 years. It's absolutely crazy. And you.
Well, you got this period now, as what happens with Stevie, and some people haven't grasped why that all came about. Because you have to now say 6 months prior to it, whether you're staying or not.
That's the end of the first half. We'll be back after a short break to discuss last week's international fixtures.
Free lawnmower removal with every grass laid, because you'll never have to mow again. Elite Lawns Artificial Grass, landscape partners with Tiger Turf.
Hi and welcome back. Obviously last week very, very busy in international terms. Good week for England?
Well, David had the good fortune of it. Was it good fortune that he actually went down to Wembley to watch the game? So he's probably better to answer that one. Certainly for Scotland, it was a fantastic week.
Oh, we're not interested in Scotland, man. Deary me.
Well, David, England.
The might of Gibraltar.
Hey, they're on the way up.
Well, England, I went to the Lithuania game, and obviously Lithuania were very poor.
Yeah,
it was
they were.
pretty much, it was all one-way traffic. England should have won much more comfortably than they did.
And they set it up so well with the early goal, didn't you? You think, oh, they're going to get 8, like they used to do in the 70s. And
yeah, I mean, those days probably are few and far between, but certainly last week was an option or an opportunity to really sort of rack up a basket full of goals. England were poor in front of goal, finishing wise, I think. And as you say, if you get an early goal like that, then I think you really put teams to the sword. The fact that it was only 2-0 at half time, really, it had people turning off a little bit at half time, I think. Yeah. And some people really lost their enthusiasm in the second half.
I mean, it was Roy Hodgson gets a lot of criticism for being a negative manager. And now I can understand that, and he made some changes, positional changes, which in my view didn't work.
But don't you think that, after the World Cup, and it was a really disappointing World Cup, and everybody's seen how bad it was, and we're going to change things, and this is the new dawn, if you like. Yeah. I think sometimes you've got to look at it and say, are the players good enough? Are the players good enough to go that next step to qualify for semi-finals, finals of the World Cup or European Championship? I'm not sure if they are. I looked at England, and obviously the Italy game as well, and going through some of the players in the squad. And I know all this harking back to the good old days, but when you think in the midfield and you had players like Brian Robson and really top players, Steven Gerrard at his time and everything else, I don't think there's that quality individually sometimes, but as a team, I don't think there's a lot of quality there. Now Smalling has been in there as a defender. I'm not sure if he should be in the England squad. Jones, I think there's a question mark over as well. Klein, the right back, yes, he's only young and he's coming through, but at this moment in time, are they there to challenge the top clubs in Europe in world football? I don't think they are.
No.
It's interesting you've just done that, because I'd written down a list here of players who I didn't think were good enough to play for England. Smalling, Klein, Walcott, Walker, Gibbs. And they're at the forefront, and yet people tell me we've got a resurrection going on at international level because we've won all the qualifying.
I think Roy Hodgson perhaps wanted to prove a little bit of a point. I think he wanted to play Kane last week from the start, and I think once there was the camera shot of the potentially the team, I think there was a little change went about, and it would have been good to see Kane in the side. And I think England needed to be dynamic last Friday rather than pedestrian as they were. Obviously, as I said, Lithuania were very poor, and it was an easy win. But until Kane came on, there was no real sort of excitement in the crowd. I mean, Rooney had one or two opportunities, but still in all, there was nothing dynamic about the game, and it really only did liven up once Kane came in. And I think that's what England need to sort of move towards, a more dynamic style, because certainly with people like Henderson and Delph, nothing was happening in the first half, and we only seen it in the second half of the Italian game really, once some changes came about and there seemed to be a bit more running at teams. And I think England really do have to change their style. And if you're going to rely on England's back line at the moment to compete with the Europe's best, I think we are sort of like looking in the wrong direction, because all those names that both of you read out, are substandard, I think.
I mean, it would seem now that our saviour is Michael Carrick. I mean, he's guy's been around for 10 years, and suddenly he's being hailed as the great midfield maestro.
Exactly. He's came in and fair play to him, and he's not expansive in his play. He'll get it and he'll pass it and he'll keep it, but that just shows for me how short England are, and this is no disrespect, because these players have worked extremely hard and possibly deserve an opportunity to play for the country. But if we are depending on Fabian Delph, Fabian Delph, Jordan Henderson, to take England into the next stages, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether they're that quality. Maybe I'll be proved wrong in the long run, but at this moment in time, I can't see England getting any closer to winning major championships.
No. I mean, I've got no problem with Harry Kane being included, but it used to be the case when I was a kid that you had to have 2 or 3 good seasons, then you got the England call. Now you have 2 or 3 good games, and you're in.
Well, that's true, but I mean that's been happening for a few years now under a certain amount of managers. But I think Kane is really, really hot, and I don't think you can afford to ignore what he's done this year. I mean, okay, he doesn't have scintillating pace or anything, but he's a finisher, and he does excite people, and he scores a real variety of goals. So I think deservedly he does. He's done it for best part of 6 months now, and I think probably it warranted him getting a little bit of a break. The fact that he scored was pure, romance. I mean, it just could not have worked out any better for him, and that's very much the way it's going for him as a whole.
I mean, Jagielka was probably the best England player on the night, I think.
I thought he was, but you look at some of the newspapers in the morning, and he got the lowest mark in some, which is absolutely. We talked about it before about the bias towards the southern-based players in the national media, and I think that was a case of that. I thought Jagielka's been in good form for Everton over the last couple of months, and I thought he defended really, really well. I thought he did really well.
He bailed them out several times, didn't he?
He did really well. Well, he's old school. We talk about, Robsons of this world, and Jagielka's from that kind of year. I think he's old school. He's a defender who defends first and foremost, and he'll be the first to admit he's not the best that will come out and play and link play and anything else. When you ask for him to defend, he's quick. He'll do that all day long.
Yeah, he's solid and steady. Yeah. But if you put Jagielka alongside the likes of Smalling and Jones, who really, it's an accident waiting to happen at any point. It's not doing any favours. Probably Cahill is the one. He's still susceptible to the odd mistake, I think. But I think you build a partnership around Cahill and Jagielka at the back and actually get that solid, because we have some problem areas.
I still can't see Smalling and Jones. I don't get it at all.
Unbelievable.
But don't you think the football world has changed? That Smalling's came off the other night because he was feeling unwell. For me,
I know.
We don't know the extent of it.
They're not exactly running through brick walls.
No, exactly. Well, that's maybe.
I'll tell the other thing that still gets me, and I've got some facts here, is that Wayne Rooney still gets criticised in some quarters, and the kid's, he's not a kid, is he?
No,
He was a kid. He's 29. He's played 103 times and scored 47 goals, 35 in competitive games in 65 competitive appearances. I just think the guy's different class, and yet we still vilify Wayne Rooney for no good reason at all.
Well, he's been, unfortunately, Wayne's been asked to play in different positions as well. For me, ever since he was a kid at Everton, for me, he should play up top. That's his best position for me. But he's been asked to play right for United, left for United, in the hole for United. For me, play him up top and he'll score goals for you, because he's aggressive, he's a good finisher. You know, he's got everything you want. But every time you play, when you see him playing, he's passing the ball. He's
Well, there's that one pass,
he's
wasn't
long
it, in the
passing.
first half,
So for me, he's still England's best player by a country mile.
So why does he take flack from people? Is that jealousy because he plays for Manchester United?
Expectations.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't fulfilled maybe the expectation of when he burst onto the scene. I mean, he was being talked about then as potentially one of the top 3 players in the world, and I don't think that's ever really materialised. But again, you know, maybe the fact that he's been asked to play in so many different positions has worked against him. If you're a centre forward for any other the big countries, France, Germany, Italy, one thing, with that record, then you're an absolute god, and you're going to be
going back
number one.
to Smalling, Wayne Rooney will run through brick walls for you. I was watching the game, the Lithuania game. Even towards the end, he was running full pelt to pick up loose balls.
But I think, Rossi, the thing as well is the fact that he's grown up now. He's had all the problems when he was younger, and which comes with wealth and everything else, and he's got to adjust. He's now the captain. You can see the maturity, you know, not only on the field but off the field as well. To talk in terms of when he's talking to the press, he's so much better, you know, what he was. So he's maturing more and more. But he's maturing. He's a fantastic player for me.
But he's like Suarez in as many. He only knows one way to play, and he's going to give 100% all the time. He'll chase lost causes. He'll create things. He's still playing football like he played as a kid in the street, really.
And he will go on to break all the records for England as well, won't he?
I think so. And as David said as well, the fact that he's played in different positions, and he's not what you'd call a striker, a number 9. He's not been played in that all the time. So just think if he was.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, so let's do Scotland then.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you why. When I got worried when they were playing Gibraltar the other day, the standard of the opposition, when the commentator said Gibraltar's best player plays for Farsley Celtic, who I used to train with when I was a kid. It's an incredibly small club on the outskirts of Leeds.
And
their star striker plays for Farsley Celtic.
You went to the wrong occupation.
So
you could have been an international footballer. But listen, Scotland at the moment, we talked about it before last week about how everybody wants to join up with the squad. You know, they beat Northern Ireland in a friendly 1-0 late goal. But the one that matters was the qualifying. And listen, they were on a hiding to nothing. You know, they expected 10 goals or whatever Gordon Strachan said. You know, it's not going to be a walkover, but listen, it was always going to be comfortable. And if they'd had lost that, I think Gordon could have been out of job.
I mean, they were never going to lose it, were they? I mean, the sad thing from Scotland's perspective is, for a tournament where the best teams are almost told you will get through these groups, they're in a really bad group there.
Tough group. The next game's against the Republic of Ireland, who scraped a draw in their qualifiers. So, you know, it's a tough group, but, you know, that's the way it goes. You know, England have got a relatively easy group. You know, that Scotland have struggled in recent years to get out of group situations, and this is going to be a struggle as well.
It'd be fantastic if we got to the European Championships and had all the home nations there, wouldn't it?
Well, I think it would be great. You know, Scotland fans travel in their thousands, and I think they're good for a competition. But Scotland have been in the wilderness for too long now. But, you know, we talk about the death of Scottish talent now as well. You know, that has been a problem. It's still a major problem. But hopefully Gordon Strachan's on the right road now, and some good youngsters coming through. So the future's looking a little bit brighter.
OK, that's the end of part 2. We'll come back with part 3 shortly, and we'll look forward to the weekend fixtures. Big games for both Everton and Liverpool.
Free lawnmower removal with every grass laid, because you'll never have to mow again. Football Friday, brought to you by Elite Lawns. No mud, no mowing, no mess.
Hi and welcome back. Crucial weekend for both Everton and Liverpool. Could be a defining weekend for both at different levels of the table. We'll start with Liverpool, obviously. They're playing at Arsenal. Do they have to win this one? If they certainly if they lose it, I think their chances of Champions League football are receding into the far distant horizon.
I would like to think that Liverpool need to get something from the game tomorrow. I think a win is vital. Would really put some pressure on United and show that Liverpool aren't out. But I think if Liverpool do lose it, I think it sends out some bad signs. It's a very tough place to go, the Emirates. I looked at Arsenal a few weeks ago and thought they were vulnerable, really, and not maybe as dominant as some people would have you believe. But they've hit a strong run of form now. They're very difficult to beat at home. Liverpool have a terrible record at the Emirates. So something's got to break tomorrow. I think Liverpool have only won once in 11 visits to the Emirates, and they've only lost once this season. In fact, they've only lost one in about 32 games, Arsenal. So it is a real stronghold place. And Liverpool really have to go there positively.
I mean, if they do lose and Man United win, I think that'll put them 8 points behind United with just a handful of games left, and that's a lot to catch up on in Bridge.
Personally, I mean, I wouldn't want to say it would be the end of it, but I could not see Liverpool actually making up 8 points. I think that would give United the stimulus to actually sort of knuckle down, make it very difficult for anybody to catch them up. So I think it's a massive game, and a lot is obviously being made of what Liverpool will look like tomorrow, the team, and if one or two key players are going to actually make it, which is well, that's crucial,
50-50.
And that is, I mean, I'd like to think it's better than 50-50, and I think Daniel Sturridge is getting a little bit of a reputation from people thinking that he has to be 100% fit to play, and I think he's got to show his mettle.
I mean, there are players like that. We've all known them. That they can't perform or they won't perform unless they feel really on top of their game. And you're right, people are starting to say, unless he's 100% fit, he won't volunteer, won't put his hand up and say, yeah, I'll play.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to go through the pain barrier. Who knows how much pain he's in? Only he does. But I would like to think that Daniel Sturridge is going to hold his hand up tomorrow and say, I'm okay, and I'm going to be there, because this is, a huge game in Liverpool's season. As we've said, so few games left. These are big rivals, and without Steven Gerrard and Martin Skrtel, Liverpool have got enough problems. There's been a little doubt over Raheem Sterling, but I sense that's sort of neither here nor there. Lucas perhaps will be back in contention. So Liverpool are reliant on the likes of Sturridge being there tomorrow.
I suppose the fact that they almost have to win this, so they certainly can't afford it, might actually help them in a way. You can't really go there and throw up a defensive blanket, because Arsenal will unpick it in the end. They always seem to do, don't they?
Yeah, I think if you look at Arsenal's strength, it's where the goals come from, and they don't just rely on one player or two players. I mean, Sanchez and Giroud have got, Sanchez got 19, I think Giroud's got 17. But the rest of them, you look at them, there are 8s in there, there are 4s and 5s and 6s. I mean, they have a real good sort of mix of goal scorers, and that is their threat. They're a great footballing team, we know that, but they are vulnerable at the back, and that is something where perhaps Liverpool have to sort of be resolute at the back and think that providing they've got a good strike force, then we're going to get something out of it.
I think if Liverpool were at full strength with Gerrard and Skrtel and Sturridge being fully fit, I would fancy Liverpool going down there. For that reason, as David says, I think defensively you can get after Arsenal a little bit. They're great going forward, but I think with Liverpool's attacking threat, with Coutinho in there and Sturridge and Sterling, they will cause problems. Obviously, Gerrard and Skrtel are big misses for them, but I still think that Liverpool will score down there. It's whether they can defend well enough to get a result.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool do have a good record of scoring there, actually. Games, have goals. They're not sort of stalemates, games between Liverpool and Arsenal. But there's never, or rarely, 2 goals between the teams. They're always decided by the odd goal.
It must be very difficult being an Arsenal fan, because they perform well, then they perform badly for a few weeks, and then blow it, basically. And then they come on strong at the end. And their fans must be thinking, if only we could have sustained this for another extra month and 2, we could have won the title this year.
They always look like a side who are content to just finish in the top 4 for me. There's no real drive and desire to get that winner in the Premier League. And I think over the years, is it 13 years in succession? I'm not too sure whether they've been in the Champions League. And I think that they're comfortable with that now, and that's wrong.
That's Wenger's fault in my view, because at the start of every season he says the objective is to get back in the Champions League, and you're right, they're probably thinking, well, we've got top four. So.
Well, you know the trouble that Arsenal fans, and they're not happy with it, you know, and some have been really against Wenger and time for change, but you know, what the supporters want success. Yeah, they want the Champions League, of course they do. They want to go to the big, but they want success as well. You know, they won the FA Cup, and you should have seen their faces here because they actually won something. So for me, they should be doing a little bit with the facilities they've got, with the 60,000 in there every week, no real debt. They should be doing better than what they're doing.
If Liverpool should lose tomorrow against Arsenal, which, as we said, will probably deny them a Champions League place next season, where does that leave Brendan Rodgers? Because I think the Americans, they're always impatient, they're businessmen, and I think their bottom line was a Champions League qualification. I mean, bearing in mind they should have won the title last year. Yeah,
Liverpool's still in the FA Cup, but clearly the Champions League is where everybody wants to be, and Liverpool are, at the moment, are maybe paying the price for the silly points that they dropped. The start of the season was poor, and you can't afford, I don't think, to think, well, we get off to a bad start, but we'll pick it up as in the second half. And Liverpool's record in the second half is brilliant. I think it's only Arsenal are better, but Liverpool will pay the price for having not got off to a more solid sort of first 2 or 3 months. And it will put pressure on a manager, because ultimately, you know, people say American businessmen are hard. They know what they want. Success is everything. It will put a little bit of pressure on the manager. But I mean, you can't just discount the good things that have been happening. And Liverpool are not a basket case, so to speak. I mean, there's only a little fine margin why Liverpool perhaps are not, you know, in that Champions League place already.
Does Balotelli still play for Liverpool?
Who?
Have you been away?
Exactly. I've been away. I mean, did I mention that? Yeah. I mean, he's been a complete disaster, hasn't he?
It's not worked. I mean, it was a poor gamble, and you know, there's been enough said about Mario Balotelli by previous managers to have sort of put the warning sign up there. Whoever thought that they were going to be able to turn it around here at Liverpool? It was asking maybe something, but he's got things to offer when he finds his form. You just can't work the guy out. I mean, you know, I don't think I could claim. I don't know what makes him tick. Have Liverpool really found out what really makes him tick? But you know, who knows? Stranger things have happened. He could turn out to be an instrumental. It was a gamble. He could turn out to be an instrumental character towards the end. Who knows? He may feature tomorrow. He could turn out to be a match winner.
I mean, you wouldn't want Mario Balotelli next to you in the trenches, would you? Really? Let's be honest.
But he's got ability, you know. And everybody knows that, and he's got ability. And as David, it was a gamble, and at this moment in time, it looks as if the gamble failed. But as David says, if Sturridge is out and he plays Balotelli, he's likely to come in and score a couple. He's that sort of player, so you know he can come good in between now and the end of the season. But I think every manager looks at him and thinks, I could be the one to change him. You know, and it hasn't happened so far, but you never know.
I think he's got some great attributes, and what you hear about him and one thing or another. I mean, he's very difficult to knock as a guy. He's got a big heart. He's got, you know, he's a good character, but something just doesn't sort of click with him. And when he gets on a football pitch, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get.
Everton almost safe now. Great win last time out at QPR. That moves them 9 points clear and better goal difference. One more win.
One more win, I think, would see us to safety. But it's been a poor season. QPR game, the last game wasn't a great performance. Fortunate to get the win, but at this stage of the season, you take any win. Southampton at the weekend is going to be tough. They've done really, really well this year. Everybody won. A lot of people's favourites to go down after selling a lot of players in the summer. But no, they've done really well. So it'll be a tough game for Everton. But I think at home, depending who's fit, if they can win this one, I think that relative season
it's
safe.
Weird because I do what all football supporters do. You look at the Southampton team, and you look at the Everton team, and you think, how many would Everton take from that team? And there aren't that many really, and yet they've had a far better season than Everton have.
Would you say they've overachieved? Would you say that Everton have underachieved? You'd probably say, they have. Yeah, they have. But you know, you've got to give credit to Koeman. He's came in and done a really good job. You know, with the players they lost in the summer, you're thinking, oh, they're going down here. You know, they're going down. But he
I
hasn't.
thought they'd go down.
Yeah,
actually.
he
I
hasn't.
must
He's
admit.
kept it going, and he's kept it, you know, freshened it up in certain areas. And you know, it'll be a tough game. So fair play to him.
I think he's built a good team unit, and that is key. I mean, you can look at individuals and say, well, would he be better than him? Would he be better than him? But as a unit, then Southampton have got it. They're strong in the midfield areas. They bond to, you know, they've bonded quite well. That midfield has been crucial, I think, protecting the back line and also sort of aiding the front. The front players got off to a flying start. They're not maybe performing quite as well at this stage of the season, but they're still dangerous. And I think you do give Koeman all the credit, I think, for building something really solid there. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be a handful next season as well.
Yeah. Okay, 30 seconds each. Who's going down?
QPR, Leicester, and I'll have to go Burnley.
I want Burnley to stay up.
I do as well. But I think
they're the only ones in the bottom 4 or 5 who've given it a real go. And you know, I like the manager. He's obviously sensible. He's got great camaraderie inside that club. I mean, I've got fears that Sunderland might go. I'm not sure that changing your manager with 8 games to go is a wise move. Traditionally in English football, it's not. Who do you think will go down, David?
I think Leicester are going to go, obviously. And strangely, I don't think they've been the worst team that I've seen this season. Sunderland have been the worst team that I've seen. But as like you, I think that Sunderland have taken a real gamble in. Well, I mean, I think they were going to go with Poyet, actually, anyway. So a new manager was the only way that they were going to get it. And definitely QPR are going to go.
Yeah. Everton safe then?
I hope so.
No problem.
Sincerely hope so.
Okay, we're going to our third and final break. When we come back, we'll be nominating our player of the season.
Free lawnmower removal with every grass laid because you'll never have to mow again. Elite Lawns Artificial Grass, landscape partners with Tiger Turf.
Hi and welcome back to the final part of Football Friday. Just a reminder that you can contact us here, whether you have got any views or any questions for our 2 guests. The email address is the best one to go for, footballfriday@baytvliverpool.com. footballfriday@baytvliverpool.com. Drop us a line and we'll get back to you. Right, chaps, so the forms have gone out for the Player of the Year. I know in the dim and distant past, players like yourself used to just screw up those forms and throw them in the bin.
Not at all.
They did, and I'll tell you now, one season an Everton player gave me his form and said, you vote for who you want to vote for.
Is that right?
But now I think people take this far more seriously, and there's not a lot of consideration. I think this year, you're talking there are only probably 3 or 4 really standout candidates.
Well, just in the break there, we were just trying to decide who it could be, and there's not anything that jumps out at you. You know, in seasons gone by, you would say, yeah, definitely him. But it's been a strange season, isn't it?
Traditionally, if you score a shed load of goals, then you're up there. So Harry Kane clearly is going to garner a lot of votes, I would imagine. And I've got no problem with that because he's been, as you said earlier, David, he's been exceptional this season.
Yeah, he has, because he didn't start the season off in the first team. It's a kind of it's a good story that he's worked his way in. He's proved to the manager that he's deserving of an opportunity. He was scoring goals in the Europa League, and Pochettino was very reluctant to sort of put him in ahead of a couple of big signings. So that's a great tale, I think, and it's, you know, you like to sort of have examples of encouragement for younger players and stuff, and he's probably, you know, he's under a golden cloud at the moment, Harry Kane.
It'll be interesting because if he wins the main one, he'll also have to win the
win
young
them
player
both,
as well,
couldn't he?
win the both of them. But you know, also into that equation, you've got to bring in the likes of, you know, Eden Hazard at Chelsea, who's he's probably been their best player. You know, for me, watching, you know, I always enjoy David Silva at Manchester City, although he's not hit the headlines as much, but he's a fantastic player. But I think it's really difficult this year. Really, really difficult.
It is, because a lot of the big names that we imported, Costa, Sanchez, had brilliant first halves to the season and have sort of tailed off. Whereas Kane, as you said, he started slowly because he wasn't in the first team in the Premier League, and he's gone like that and he's kept going.
Yeah, I think you looked at Chelsea, I think you could pick 3 or 4 names within the Chelsea team that have been instrumental in their success, have kept them sort of very much at a high level. The goalkeeper, obviously, Courtois. I mean, John Terry never gets really a mention of these things because he's not as popular, perhaps, as some people. I mean, and that plays a part in it, I think, in this player thing.
It does.
It's
I'll
whether
tell
not players like each other.
I'll tell you a story.
Well, Costa won't get many votes from opposition players,
No,
will
he-
he? Because
no, he
nobody
won't.
likes him.
And it's the same with the Journalists' Award. I mean, it does influence how the journalists vote. I remember going back 20 odd years. Stuart Pearce should have won it. He had a magnificent season. But he didn't win it because he wouldn't have anything to do with the media. And most of the press lads who knew they should have voted for Stuart Pearce said, no, we're not voting for him.
Yeah.
He's awkward, he's difficult. Yeah. And so it does play its part. And you're right, Costa's not going to get many votes from fellow professionals.
Well, if I'm looking at it now, I think Costa's been great. You know, you want him in your team. You say, yeah, he's done really well. But you get this other people you've played against, they probably think, I don't like him.
See, David De Gea's had a fantastic season. And I suspect Neville Southall was the last one to win one of the last major goalkeeper to win a major award. I think that will be, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago.
I mean, maybe somebody like Matic could creep in the sort of the outsiders slightly. I mean, he's been a strong personality in there. He gets about his business, he goes about his business in a no-nonsense way.
It's a real shame that we don't have any candidates from Everton or Liverpool, do we? Really?
No.
Not at all.
I think when you ask the question that coming into the break, Player of the Year, I thought you were meaning for our clubs, and I think that's going to be the really difficult one certainly from Everton's point of view. The end of season, the dinner we have to pick the Player of the Year. I think it's going to be really, really difficult because I don't think anybody has been outstanding, and Jagielka in the last few months has been different class. But it's going to be a tough one for the Everton one. I don't think Liverpool.
I think Liverpool's as form in recent weeks has sort of put a little bit of a spotlight on the likes of Coutinho. Henderson gets a bit of credit, I think, and Mignolet, certainly the goalkeeper's an up to him, but he's not going to feature in the main awards type of thing. But I think Liverpool have had 2 or 3 who have begun to make a little bit of an impact.
When they do the composite team, when they pick the team of the season from all the Premier League clubs, I don't think Everton and Liverpool are going to have any representatives in there, and that could be the first time for a long time that's happened.
I would say, you can look at that, Ian, I would say left back. I still think Leighton Baines is, although he's not had a great season, I don't think
he was a slow start of this season.
Yeah, he's not had a great season, but I'm not think there's a lot of left backs about it. Maybe
no,
it's a difficult one. I'm looking at England.
He's possibly the only one who might.
Yeah.
But again, he's he takes flack, does Leighton Baines, and for the life of me, I don't understand it. When the guy's a model professional, and 9 times out of 10 he'll give you a good display.
Yeah, it's really difficult, and it's always difficult. And you look at the European ones and the Ballon d'Or when there's votes for that, and you can see that's rigged when they vote for their mates and everything else kind of thing. So I'm not sure players. Of course, players want to win it, but I'm not too sure players are that bothered if they don't.
Probably not. Talking about Harry Kane, where do you stand on the under-21 issue with the forthcoming tournament this summer? Who's going, who's not going, should they go, shouldn't they go? I mean, I read this morning that Kane will probably go, but, for example, Ross Barkley won't go. Now, I don't know whether that tells you that Ross Barkley is now a permanent fixture in the senior squad and Kane isn't. I mean, you both played. You played once in 82 for Scotland under-21s. You played once for England under-21s in 76. It's called research, Sharpie, that's what it's called.
Did you know I scored as well?
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did, yes.
A rare goal. A rare goal for your country.
I think it's great that Kane wants to be a part of it. He clearly was involved in the early stage of the competition, built up a rapport with some of the boys in the team. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity to be involved in a tournament. And so I think that's great, very creditable for him to be involved. And I don't know whether or not the decision has been left with him, but I think he's actively canvassed that he wants to be involved. But I can't see any reason why the likes of Barkley wouldn't be in, to be honest with you, because I don't see him.
I think it would be really good for Barkley.
Definitely.
Well, I don't think he's had a great season at Everton. I think he's been up and down. But again, we go back to it, talk about England at senior level and how we don't think they're good enough at the moment. You look at the German sides, they had no hesitation in putting their best players in under-20. Even though they'd been in the senior side, you're playing in under-21s, you're going to win tournaments, you're going to grow up together, and hopefully that will benefit the senior team in later years. So, tiredness, long season, under-21, I'm not sure. I think if I'm a player under-21, I've got the opportunity to play for England or Scotland in the tournament, I'd want to play.
Especially this summer where there's no European Championships, no World Cup. This is a lot of people are going to watch this one, because they're addicted to football, and the Women's World Cup is on also.
It's good for the young lads' development. You know, it's getting them into a tournament situation again. You know, with the pressures that come with that. You know, going away for so long, it's all part and parcel of the development for me. And I think there's no reason why they can't play and they shouldn't play.
You look at Spain, what they did. I mean, they played all their strong players when they had them. Germany have done it in previous years as well. It's a great habit to have. It's a great memory for them to have for their careers. So I think it's definitely to your benefit. I think if you do take part.
I was listening to a German journalist on the radio the other day, and he said the difference between England and Germany is when England under 21 squad is announced, some players and managers look for an excuse to get them out. If you pick for the German one, you go. It's that simple. And if you don't go, you know, we've had this week Paul Ince's son saying he didn't want to play for the under 21s. If that happens in Germany, you never play for the country again at any level.
Ridiculous. I can't believe you know how Tommins has arrived at that decision.
I don't understand it.
But looking at the Germany and England game the other night was a great was a really good game, and as you say, the tournament I think is going to be in the spotlight this summer. I think you'll see some really great football. And though England came out with a good win, they had to work hard. England have got a lot of talent in under 21 level. It's going to be a good competition worth being part of.
Can you see a natural progression? Can you see Gareth Southgate succeeding Roy Hodgson at the senior team? It's a difficult. I mean, most people can't. You see, that's why I asked the question.
Well, I think they said that the other week they want to keep it an English manager in charge. So you're probably looking at it now and saying he's got a good ground and he was in international football himself. He's been in club management. He's doing a relatively good job with under 21s. So you'd like to think there's natural progression, but you know, results will determine that. You know, whether with Gareth or Roy Hodgson, but. It's an interesting one, yeah. But England, I'm not sure.
I think in time he could well do, and I think if England go away to this under 21 championship and do really well, that cements his place as as having some success. I think he then sees the development of a certain group. I'd much rather be looking at Southgate for England than Gary Neville, to be honest with you. And I think Southgate's doing himself no harm whatsoever, and I can't see why he should not be seen as a worthwhile candidate in the next few years.
Well, we've got to find somebody because Roy Hodgson can't go on forever.
Well, I'm going to say that. It's interesting which way they're going to go down. You know, whether they're going to bring another foreign manager or they're going to keep it in-house.
Okay, that's it. It's been a pleasure to be back with you. Enjoy your Easter weekend, and we'll hopefully see you next week on Football Friday here at Bay TV. Thanks for watching.
Safe for the family, including the dog. Football Friday, brought to you by Elite Lawns.